Before we dive into the pivotal moment, Senator Josh Hawley discovered that mocking someone's education can spectacularly backfire when your own academic record is less than pristine. Please take a moment to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. What you're about to witness is a powerful lesson in how intellectual arrogance can quickly become self-destructive, especially when built on a foundation of privilege, exaggeration, and misleading claims. The Senate Judiciary Committee hearing on judicial qualifications was already nearly 2 hours in, and Senator Josh Hawley was in full performance mode. He wielded his Yale Law School background like a weapon, implicitly suggesting it elevated him above anyone he deemed less educated. When Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett appeared as an expert witness to challenge the credentials of several conservative judicial nominees, Hawley clearly saw an easy opportunity to assert dominance and impress his political base. He settled back into his chair, a familiar smirk playing on his lips, a thick look he often wore when he believed he was about to embarrass someone he considered beneath him. Congresswoman Crockett, Hawley began, his tone dripping with the kind of Ivy League condescension perfected during his years at Stanford and Yale. I find it interesting that someone with a degree from the University of Houston Law Center believes she can adequately evaluate judicial excellence. Those of us who attended truly elite institutions drawn from pillars of legal scholarship like Stanford and Yale should be handling these discussions. Was Houston even in the top 100 law schools when you went there? Perhaps complicated constitutional issues should be left to those of us with legitimate legal backgrounds, people who studied under federal judges, not practitioners from state schools. The room fell into a stunned silence. A few Republican senators managed nervous chuckles while Democrats stared in disbelief at the blatant academic elitism. Hawley's smirk widened. He was clearly convinced he had delivered a devastating insult. He adjusted his tie, a small, deliberate gesture meant to emphasize his supposed superiority, and waited for what he assumed would be Congresswoman Crockett's uncomfortable reaction, but the expression on his face completely changed. Crockett calmly opened her briefcase and with quiet, deliberate confidence pulled out a thick folder. It was prepared specifically for this exact situation, and its bold label was visible to every camera. Hawley, academic misconduct. She placed it on the table with a soft thud that echoed through the room, instantly turning the atmosphere electric. She didn't rush, didn't raise her voice. She didn't stoop to Hawley's tone. Instead, she opened the folder with the precise calm of someone about to dismantle a carefully crafted public image built on exaggeration and hidden truths. Senator Hawley, Crockett said, her voice steady and controlled. Since you've decided to bring up legal education and the prestige of certain institutions, I think this committee and the American public deserve to hear the real story about your academic background. Not the polished version you've been promoting for years, but the facts. The facts that include evidence showing you didn't actually write the Yale Law Review article that launched your career. The facts proving you plagiarized major parts of your Stanford thesis. The facts showing you've been dishonest about your class ranking for 2 decades. And most importantly, the evidence demonstrating that you've been using questionable academic credentials to attack others while hiding your own misconduct. Every camera in the hearing room caught the transformation of Hawley's expression. His confident grin collapsed into confusion, then shock, and finally visible panic. He stumbled for his water glass, knocking it over and spilling it across the table. He grabbed 4 napkins, trying desperately to hide how rattled he had become. The polished persona he relied on had completely fallen apart. Moments ago, the room had been filled with awkward laughter aimed at Crockett. Now the entire chamber sat in stunned silence. The only audible sound was Hawley's nervous breathing, captured starkly by his microphone. The story of how Congresswoman Crockett obtained this damaging information about Hawley's academic history began months before the hearing. Her team knew that appearing before the Judiciary Committee would make her a target for elitist attacks, especially from Hawley, who frequently used his Ivy League background to belittle critics. What started as standard research quickly uncovered something unexpected and far more serious: working with academic integrity advocates, former classmates who were tired of Hawley's relentless self-promotion, and a crucial whistleblower from Yale Law School's administrative office with access to supposedly sealed records. Crockett's team uncovered a pattern of dishonesty that stretched across Hawley's entire academic career. For years, Josh Hawley had built a public image as the intellectual conservative, a polished elite thinker who blended high-level education with populist politics. But the deeper Crockett's team dug, the more they discovered that this image wasn't built on excellence, but rather on privilege, exaggeration, repeated academic deception. Crockett continued, explaining that the senator's achievements were not what they seemed. She elaborated that his admission to a prestigious undergraduate university had been secured not through merit but through significant family connections. His subsequent success in law school, she revealed, came not from genuine brilliance, but from a network of ghostwritten papers, copied assignments, professors who were pressured to look the other way. She then displayed a certified undergraduate transcript on the committee screens. This, she said calmly, is the senator's actual academic record. The document showed an average GPA, no honors, and no awards, directly contradicting the impressive resume he had publicly promoted for years. She then revealed an internal university file showing that his senior thesis had been flagged for heavy plagiarism, but was quietly passed after a large donation from his family. The senator tried to interrupt, claiming the documents were fabricated, but his voice cracked so badly he didn't even sound convinced of his own protest. The congresswoman responded by presenting a sworn statement from the senator's former thesis advisor, who admitted he was pressured by the university to approve a thesis he knew contained plagiarized material. The room erupted into chaos. Senators who usually supported him leaned away. Others stared in disbelief. Reporters typed frantically. It was clear to everyone that the polished intellectual image the senator had built for decades was collapsing in real time. But the payment trail didn't end there. The congresswoman displayed a series of emails on the screen. Messages where the senator had written to the student he secretly paid. One email read, "Make it polished enough to land me a federal clerkship." If you deliver, there's an extra bonus, and enough traditional constitutional theory to impress conservative judges. The student's reply included an attachment titled First Draft Religious Liberty Analysis. The metadata clearly showed the document was created by the student and never opened or edited by the senator before being submitted for publication. The evidence kept piling up. The congresswoman revealed even more about the academic fraud network the senator had operated during his time in law school. She presented spreadsheets detailing payments, statements from students who participated, and a price list. The senator had personally created constitutional law exam answers were priced at $3,000. Law review notes were $5,000. Moot court briefs were $2,000. The entire operation was structured, organized, and incredibly profitable, an underground system that generated thousands of dollars while the senator publicly portrayed himself as a top legal scholar. This, the congresswoman said, lifting a document marked with the law school's student affairs seal may be the most devastating piece of information yet. It was a confidential report from the law school's Academic Integrity Committee had investigated the senator for running what they called an essay mill marketplace where wealthy students bought academic work from struggling classmates. The investigation found unmistakable proof of the scheme but was shut down after the senator threatened to reveal similar misconduct involving other politically connected students. The school prioritized protecting its reputation but they quietly kept all the files. Then came a revelation that elevated the scandal from academic dishonesty to possible criminal conduct. The congresswoman displayed bank statements showing that the senator had used his fraudulent academic credentials to secure high-paying positions. His job as a constitutional law instructor at a major state university had been earned using the ghostwritten article as his primary credential. His salary was more than $200,000 a year for 6 years, over $1.20 $2 million based on false qualifications. She showed documents proving that his board memberships, speaking fees, and book deals, totaling over $5 million, were all obtained by presenting fake academic achievements. This is not just academic misconduct, she said firmly. This is financial fraud. The senator grew visibly unsteady. He leaned back toward his attorney, whispering frantically. But the congresswoman continued, unwavering. She then produced records showing the senator had failed his state bar exam twice before finally passing on his third attempt. In fact, he hid by claiming he had deliberately chosen to take a different jurisdiction's test. She also revealed that the application he submitted for his prestigious clerkship included inflated and inaccurate details about his academic ranking could render that appointment invalid. But then she brought the conversation back to the present hearing. For years, she said the senator has used his manufactured academic reputation to insult judicial nominees, dismiss respected legal experts, and belittle anyone he believes is beneath him. Just moments ago, he mocked my education from a public law school. She gently placed her own credentials onto the table and displayed them on the screen. So, here are the actual facts about my academic background. She revealed that she had graduated with highest honors from her law school with a 3.96 GPA. She served as editor-in-chief of the Law Review where she personally wrote every article under her name. She passed her bar exam on the first attempt, scoring in the 96th percentile. She had argued 17 cases before federal courts, winning 14 of them. I have never plagiarized, never paid someone to do my work, and never claimed a credential I didn't earn, she said calmly. She ended by saying, my education didn't come from an elite university. But every achievement was earned honestly through my own effort, not through privilege, deception, or shortcuts. The contrast between the two could not have been more overwhelming. On one side of the hearing room sat the senator, fully exposed, as someone whose entire reputation had been built on academic dishonesty and privilege. On the other side sat the congresswoman, whose accomplishments, though earned at a less famous school, were real, documented, and achieved through skill and hard work. The room fell into an unnerving silence as everyone processed the magnitude of what had just been revealed. Senator, the congresswoman continued, her tone turning heavier and more direct. You asked earlier if my school even ranked among the top universities. So let me tell you what my school taught me, lessons that your Ivy League-style education apparently failed to provide. It taught me that integrity always outweighs prestige. It taught me that real law is about fairness, not favoritism. Taught me that excellence is proven through actual achievement, not through purchased credentials or inherited connections. And most of all, it taught me that people who use privilege to mock others are usually trying to hide the truth that they feel like imposters themselves. She then lifted one final document. This one freshly dated, clearly processed just days before the hearing. This is a letter from the current dean of your law school, she said, holding it up so the cameras could capture the seal. They have started formal proceedings to revoke your law degree after reviewing the evidence we submitted. Your undergraduate institution is launching a similar review of your bachelor's degree. The State Bar Association has opened an investigation into whether your law license was obtained through fraudulent means. She looked directly at him. Your entire academic and professional foundation is collapsing, and this is the moment you chose to mock my education. The room erupted instantly. Committee members were talking over each other, demanding investigations, demanding explanations, and some even calling for the senator to resign immediately. Reporters in the gallery scrambled to send updates. Cameras panned wildly, and within minutes, a new trending tag was sweeping across social platforms, labeling the scandal in real time. Commentators who once praised the senator for his so-called intellectual strength were now rushing to distance themselves. Posing commentators could barely hide the shock and satisfaction of watching his carefully crafted persona disintegrate. The senator's reaction spoke louder than any defense he could give. Instead of disputing the evidence or presenting counterproof, he simply sat frozen, stunned into silence. His expression shifted from disbelief to anger to fear and finally to hollow acceptance. When the committee chair asked whether he wished to respond, it wasn't the senator who answered. It was his attorney. Standing stiffly, the attorney announced that the senator would be invoking his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Declaration far more damning than any admission of guilt. The fallout was immediate and overwhelming. Within hours, his law school confirmed that a degree revocation review was underway. His undergraduate university announced the same. The university where he once taught issued a statement placing his former position under formal review and signaled an intention to reclaim salary paid based on false credentials. The state bar released a notice stating that his license was now under emergency investigation. Even the nation's highest court announced it was reviewing the legitimacy of clerkships that may have been secured using inaccurate academic records, that every decision linked to his time there could face scrutiny. The political consequences hit just as quickly. Senators who had once aligned themselves with him publicly withdrew their support. One conservative colleague claimed he had always felt something off about the senator's academic story. Another announced he would no longer co-sponsor legislation with him. Party leadership quietly removed the senator from all committee roles and internal groups. Pressure mounted for him to resign, with even members of his own party stating that he no longer had the credibility to serve. The criminal investigation that followed uncovered even deeper misconduct. Prosecutors found that the senator had listed false academic credentials on federal forms, financial disclosures, and security clearance applications, each one potentially a felony. The total amount of money he had earned through these misrepresentations, salary, book deals, speaking fees, and board payments exceeded $10 million. Charges were prepared for mail fraud, wire fraud, and conspiracy related to the academic fraud network he had overseen in school. Investigators also uncovered a larger web of similar misconduct among influential professionals. The senator's exposure opened the door to dozens of inquiries into questionable academic histories across the political and judicial landscape. Several judges quietly stepped down rather than endure public scrutiny. At least 3 other lawmakers were found to have exaggerated or fabricated portions of their academic profiles. For the senator at the center of it all, the collapse was total and irreversible. His book publisher immediately canceled his contract and demanded every dollar of the advance back. His speaking agency removed him from their roster. Greater than every board and organization he was part of cut ties with him. Donations to his political action committee disappeared overnight. Staff members at his Senate office began resigning in large numbers, not wanting their names attached to someone exposed as a fraud. In less than a week, Hawley went from being described as a rising conservative star to becoming a national embarrassment. His name now a symbol of academic lies and intellectual dishonesty. The cultural fallout spread far beyond Washington. Downfall ignited a nationwide debate about academic elitism and how Ivy League degrees had long been treated as automatic tickets to power. Universities across the country were suddenly pressured to verify student work more strictly. A widespread pattern emerged, wealthy students paying struggling classmates to write papers or complete assignments. The scandal forced many colleges to overhaul their academic integrity rules. Law schools especially went through major reform. The American Bar Association introduced new requirements to verify the authenticity of academic records before anyone could sit for the bar exam. Law reviews added mandatory plagiarism scans and required signed statements confirming that all submissions were original work. The elitist culture that allowed fraudulent credentials to be used as weapons against people from public universities finally faced real accountability. For Jasmine Crockett, confrontation changed everything. Overnight, she became a national figure, not just as a sharp lawmaker, but as a champion of honest achievement and educational integrity. Her calm, evidence-based dismantling of Hawley's claims, paired with her defense of public education, struck a chord with millions of Americans who had worked hard for their degrees only to be looked down on by people hiding behind prestigious but dishonest credentials. The image of her lifting the folder labeled Hawley academic misconduct became one of the defining political moments of the decade. The ripple effects across American politics were massive. No new rules required all federal candidates to provide verified academic transcripts before running for office. Politicians could no longer casually flaunt degrees or belittle others without risking being asked to prove every claim. The long-held belief that elite school graduates automatically possessed superior intellect was shattered, especially now that the public knew some of these degrees had been bought rather than earned. 6 months after the explosive hearing, federal prosecutors charged Josh Hawley with 17 counts of fraud, conspiracy, and false statements. The trial brought out even more devastating details about his academic schemes. Former students testified about the essay writing business he secretly ran. At Yale, professors revealed the pressure they faced to pass him despite poor performance. Financial experts estimated that over $15 million in income salary, book deals, speaking fees, and consulting roles had been obtained through false credentials. The jury returned a unanimous verdict on every charge. Hawley was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison in order to repay all money he gained through fraud. During sentencing, the judge emphasized that Hawley's crimes weren't just personal. They corrupted the integrity of America's legal and educational